Okay. Um, I guess happy Thanksgiving 2023. Um, what you're looking at right now is behind the curtain for Imagine Image Multimedia. People say, hey, by the way, what program do you use to do some of those drawings? And the answer is Canvas. The answer is not Illustrator or AutoCAD or, a SolidWorks. The reason is that Canvas was originally referred to in the day, back in the day, as the poor man's Illustrator from Adobe. But Canvas is from Denaba Software, which I believe now Denaba, like the star or the star system, um, is actually owned by I think not Corel Draw but ACD, ACDC. In other words, SEE. So ACDSEE, I think. I'm not entirely sure. Uh, but what we're looking at here is how roads and rivers, and yes, here we go again, but this time I'm taking the opportunity to show you what the nuances are of creating roads and rivers. Now, obviously, not everybody's going to have programs like Canvas. Canvas is not cheap, but once obtained, it's phenomenal. And 10 times less, well, let's put it this way. It's really easy to use, regardless of how much cheaper it is than the Adobe Suite or Illustrator. Canvas is very easy to use. And of course, I know people would say, yeah, but Illustrator is easy to use too. And well, that's not true. Because the learning curve with Illustrator is through the roof, just like everything else from Adobe, through the roof, except, of course, Adobe Acrobat. The learning curve is ridiculous. It's like you're in Hollywood. That's what they are. That's what they do. Adobe has created these programs to be used by top shelf for people for top shelf results. Well, we may be top shelf people, but we don't need top shelf results. Okay, we're not printing 5-color, separations in film anymore. And everything is digital, so all those capabilities are just, they may still be there and may still be needed, but the fact is Canvas said, nah, we don't do that. We don't care. So, they're a little bit less emphasis on anything like that. But when it comes to drawing, as you can see here, we have this grid, the hexagon grid that was created. It's all created in Canvas. Nothing's imported here. Nothing was drawn in something else. And so what we're doing is we are showing that when you lay out the hexagon pattern, there's a couple of limitations on how you do it. And yes, I see now that there's one hexagon that's missing. So what I'm going to do is I will show you. Let's zoom in a little bit better. And it looks like I'm going to have to temporarily ungroup this so that I can get a single hex, group it. And you can see why I do that, so that it's more manageable. And is this on a layer? It should be, but if it is or isn't, I'm not entirely concerned about it right now. And what are layers? Well, layers literally are sheets on top of sheets as if they're transparencies in the software. And by putting every or group of objects on a separate layer, you can turn those layers off from being visible. And you can manage just the things on that layer, whereas managing everything on a single page, a single layer. But am I using layers? No. Why? Because I don't really need to worry about that right now. At some point in the future, I may copy the work to a separate layer for management, but right now this is what I'm showing and this is fine. The couple of things I wanted to mention was the material that you make roads and rivers from. We talk about foamies. It's also just craft foam. There's different names. But this line right here represents 18 inches and it's in scale. So as you can see, this layout entirely is 1-to-1. This is a 8-foot by 5-foot hexagon grid. Okay, and this line here is 18 inches. That represents the 18-inch length of the foam, craft foam that is available. And it's like 1.5 millimeter, 2 millimeters thick, this craft foam. That's what these roads and rivers are made of. That's why we do this. So this tells you the maximum length that you can cut, or that you can have to cut from. Therefore, it's like an axiom. No piece on the table, on the layout for planning this scenario, can be longer than 18 inches, because this represents the limit of the page, of the piece of foam. So you can only make 18-inch lengths, which is fine. And then, as we know what the width is, because we kind of match it up with the hexes, remember that we're doing side to side, not corner to corner. So as you see here, all these little shapes and so on are tailored to fit the side to side concept. When you have a road or a river that breaks that side to side flow, you're going to need a special piece to match it with the established side-to-side flow, be it river or road. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. It's a bizarre shape, but it appears I made this the other day, and I'm like, you know what? I'm tired of monkeying around with all these different lengths of road or different so on, because of changing from side to corner or something of that nature. You'll see what I mean in a minute. This little piece right here is a junction, and imagine these are all roads. This is a junction that allows the 18-inch length. All these are 18-inch lengths, but they could be any length. But the point is, without having to change the lengths of the foam, you can go from a side to side. Actually, this is a little off. So here is this is still off a little bit. All right, I'll show you how I do this. By double clicking, you get the nodes of the lines or shapes. So I'm not changing the length, I'm just changing how neat it is in the, whoops. Did I just screw that? I think I may have just screwed that up. Let me find out. But at any rate, it's got to be 18 inches. I believe I did just screw that up. Oh. Come on. Okay, so making sure that the width of the road, in this river in this case, is appropriately lined up for the hexes, and I don't think that 18 inches is correct. Let me find out if this is the right length. Just draw a line, and it'll give you the length of it. Right here is close to 18. All right, so there's the thing. Okay, I'm going to make this. I'm going to fix my mistake here and make this thing 18 inches, because that's the whole story, and I'm sticking to it, which is why we do this. Okay, so we're back to 18 inches. This little guy right here, actually now I see that he needs to be adjusted too. So when you have your 18-inch length, like I said, you don't want to have to cut this every time you go from side to side to, as you see this road piece right here. This road piece right here has changed, or is adapting the flow from the side to side to the side to corner. Here's the corner right here. And this is like an SPI layout or Avalon Hill, where they either put it at the bottom or the top of the hexagon grid. Okay, and this is an 18-inch piece, just like this one. As a matter of fact, let's just go ahead and change all these as if they're roads. And yes, we're 3D printing some trees. I'm watching it, making sure they're okay. I think they're going to be all right. All right, so here's our roads. And you know what? I know it's gray, but let's go. All right. Okay. So this is the little piece. This is the focus of what we're doing here. This little guy. And he is going to, and I know it looks wonky, so there's a couple of things we can tweak about this. But he is like a universal piece. If you have a situation where you have a road coming in and it's this length, then this guy is going to accept that 18-inch length like this. And I'll get this blue guy out of the way. Okay. So this guy is going to accept this 18-inch length as if it's just going to fit in. Okay, so you see how the 18-inch piece comes in. It hasn't been changed from where it mated earlier, back with the other hex, but now we're going to take this and we're going to match this up like this. We're going to add a point. And I know it's very bizarre, but it's true. That's how this is going to work. This little guy is needed to have an intersection that's going to take, and here's an example. There may be 2 or 3 different versions of this thing. This guy is going to go yeah, see, it's a little wonky, right? Look at this little ridge right here, because we don't want to change the 18-inch, whatever it is. Okay, it could be 4 inches, 5 inch, 6 inches, but we don't want to change the length. Cut it off right here so that the lines of the hexes are, they match. We simply want to take that 18-inch, or we simply want to take that length of road and match it to this little guy. So we never have to worry about these lengths being changed to go from a side-to-side angle to a side-to-bottom layout. And that's what this is. This little piece will mate these guys coming from this part of the hexagon grid, the bottom, or in this case, it's the top. It's the top of this hex and it's the bottom of the next hex. So in other words, it runs along the bottom, or it runs along the hexagon. This is interesting. We just noticed that the width of that road and of course, you could say, well, you're being a little finicky. It doesn't have to be that exact. No, it doesn't. I could just stop it like this. Here's our piece. Here's our little wonky piece. We have to accept the fact there's going to be this little, bit right here. Now, this is just a piece that will take, that will allow the transition from the side-to-side hexagon grid to the side-to-bottom of the hexagon grid. Let's just match this up. So that's acceptable. But this is what the piece looks like. All right. And now if you're going to make a fork, That's one piece. Okay, I know it looks weird, but that's what you have to do in order to conform to this, the mathematics and the angles and everything else that are needed to do this. Now let's make a fork in the road that's going to go from this side to bottom to the bottom to side in this orientation. So it's a fork. It simply means that we have to take this and match it up there, and take this and go. So we put a little guy here. And just for simplicity of making the shape. Okay, so now there we go. We only need to adjust this. The whole point of this is we only need to adjust this guy and make several versions of him to conform to the rest of the lengths of the normal hexagon grid. And it's probably going to be weird, but it looks better, right? It looks better. Now, here's the other thing. You could construct a piece that has this characteristic, but is only just fitting into the hex, right? It just fits in the hex, like this. But then again, these square cut ends have to fit, and they won't. If you make a piece that's just for this hex and it fits the corners and everything, you have to adjust these, and that's what we were trying to avoid. That's the whole point. All right, so there we are, and we'll come back with more details on this.